Okay, so I have never seen an episode of this series in my life. I saw some ads for it. Made me think of Scride. So it made me want to watch Scride. So when Marwan Abanura asked me on Patreon, because he's a $20 supporter and he's the only one, so he automatically kind of gets his choice, as it were. But otherwise, it'd be sort of a raffle at that level. You can go to Patreon to find more information on that. When he asked me to review the first episode of this series, I was curious what it would have to offer in its basic concept other than what Scride did, or if it was just going to be something where there's the potential that it didn't get quite as complicated as Scride did. Scride, rather. You know, mechanics and magic, name Scry. Series is called Scride. See, easy confusion. Whatever. I think I need to remind people, though, that I kind of judge first episodes on a different scale from other episodes. I've gone over this more in other reviews, but episode 1 needs to introduce concepts of the show to the audience while grabbing the viewer's attention. And a story-based show has the extra challenge of having quite a bit to explain from the outset. It's no surprise that a show like this would use an exposition speech in order to do this, and having the main character as narrator is a good way to introduce him. But right now I just want to talk about how something like this can fall flat. See, some main characters are just not good narrators, and Rex is... how should I put this? He follows an archetype of the relatable teenage protagonist with an attitude, and those are not always the best narrators to use for something like that. I mean, it can work, and it's kind of hard to draw the line between where it does and where it doesn't, but let's just say in this situation, I did not feel like it did. Rex actually plays this archetype pretty well, and as we go through the episode, we see that there's some more depth that can be explored further into the series. But my first impression of him really paints this as the show that's trying way too hard to be cool. I mean, especially with lines like this.
Hello, monster guy. I'm Rex. Now thrill me.
I mean, on top of sounding like the start of a gay porno, is that really the best line you can come up with for a character with this kind of attitude? I mean, it just comes across as cheesy. Not the best first impression for your relatable, cool teenage protagonist. To be fair, the rest of the episode kind of fixes that in a sense. Makes him more on the side of relatable and cool than delivering cheesy one-liners like that. And I mean, not even cheesy in the charming way. I mean, just cheesy. But before we get there, let's talk about the stuff in the opening monologue that actually matters. Okay, I know this makes it sound kind of cliche, but it's basically Static Shock's Big Bang on a global scale with
Nanomachine, son!
Essentially Providence fight against the evil Bang Babies, and Rex is their secret weapon. A good guy Bang Baby. Alright, to be fair, I have an easier time taking this show's naming seriously than Static Shock's. I mean, the people with powers are called Evos. The things that cause them to have powers are called nanites instead of just random lol gas. It's really great, Static. It's really awesome. But honestly, the nanite thing works a little bit better, and it also creates a little bit more of an interconnection between the Evos. And I think calling it a nanite event sounds a lot more official than calling it the Big Bang. I mean, Statics fit better with that setting. This fits better with this, and I like this setting more because of simply the way these things are worded. Anyway, let's talk about the opening theme for a second. It sucks. There, I talked about it for a second. Okay, I guess you want more than that. Fine. It's generic punk that makes the Power Rangers Ninja Storm theme sound creative. It has like no lyrics except for the one that explains absolutely nothing about the show. It is the least evocative opening theme I've ever heard. Moving on. So Rex fights the Attack on Titan monster and a dude in a suit shows up. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about how much I like the fight scenes in this episode, because those are really what's going to sell me on future episodes of an action show. The animation is so fluid, and there's such a slick style to the movements. It's impressive, and Rex's powers have parts of his body transforming in front of our eyes. In fact, speaking of fluid combat style, let's talk about the dude that pulls freaking swords out of his suit jacket. What? His name is Six.
Six's basic personality is that he's a stoic professional and kind of like Rex's bodyguard.
Okay, Nanny, as Rex is going to call him later. Actually, that's kind of fitting.
In comparison to the more compassionate and friend-like father figure of Bobo,
who is a monkey.
Chimpanzee, technically.
Shut the fuck up, Rex!
Anyway, Rex loses control of his nanites at one point, then gets them back after Six intervenes.
Which serves as the perfect segue into Dr. Holiday and the main conflict regarding Rex's character in this particular episode. I don't have a funny joke. Wait, this character's name is Holiday. Yes, I do.
Medical professional Christmas serves as the mother figure and discovers that the reason Rex freaked earlier is because he is a very lonely boy!
And that's basically the underlying groundwork for especially this episode. The people around Rex, basically just Providence, treat him kind of like a weapon. Kind of understandably so, considering the situation that they're in. But they do treat him like a weapon, and that results in added stress to perform when it comes time to perform. Oh, and he also has amnesia.
No surprise that Professor Easter sends him to what amounts to an obstacle course to relieve stress, and no surprise that Rex busts the fuck out.
And those of you who've seen this show are probably wondering why I haven't pointed out the fact that Rex cures Evos. I have a theory for how he's able to do that. I'll go into later. Keep in mind, I've only seen the first episode, so if I'm completely wrong, it's because I'm just saying that based on what I'm seeing in this one episode. I just thought it would be interesting to present the viewpoint of someone who hasn't seen the whole series. That way, it's a little bit more interesting, even if you have. More you know.
When Rex is hanging out with a bunch of relatable teens who don't care about the rules, we meet Noah, who is the most relatable teen of all.
He's Rex's new best friend!
Even more so, you're my brother. You're my brother, okay?
God, I hope not.
So Six shows up, and then these Evo fuckers show up to kidnap Rex.
It's worth noting that in the opening monologue earlier, Rex thought that all other Evos were mindless, aggressive creatures. But these guys aren't. They're not mindless at all. They have a specific plan.
Of course, the relatable teen crew seem to realize that non-hostile Evos exist.
So I guess it depends on the person who goes Evo. Hey, the show's terminology, not mine. I guess going Evo is a form of evolution then? Wouldn't that be a good reason to call it Evo? I feel like the sort of X-Men style inherent good or evil of Evos is something that they could certainly explore further in the series. So I'm interested to see, watching this series further, if they go there.
Anyway, the Evo fuckers take Rex, Noah, and Bobo to Van Cleis, who is presumably our series antagonist.
His main power is that he uses nanites to manipulate nature, sort of. Which leads me to how I think Rex's powers work.
You see, Rex's main power involves turning parts of his body into machines.
That was explained away earlier as the ability to manipulate nanites and, by extension, ostensibly cure Evos. I think there's more to it than that, though.
The other power he's shown to have is manipulation of technology, displayed primarily through the vending machine.
Now, what this points me to is the fact that Rex's powers and Van Cleis's powers mirror each other in a certain way. In essence, Van Cleis manipulates nature through the use of his nanites, and Rex manipulates technology, and nanites are technology, thus he's able to manipulate them. It's actually stated during all of this that nanites are technology. I don't know if I say that in the voiceover. I don't remember. I think I do. But there is sort of a connection between their two power sets. Worth noting that basically it's something that Van Cleis does that I see an indication of Rex potentially being able to do as well.
After separating Bobo and Noah from Rex, Van Cleis basically siphons nanites from Rex's body.
And that's where the link comes in that I think that they can explore later. I believe that both of them have the ability to siphon nanites out of others. The way that Rex cures Evos is that he siphons nanites out of people. Van Cleis siphons nanites out of people in order to utilize his powers. Basically, be stronger. You could argue that Rex gets stronger as well, but he's not seeking to do so. And it's interesting that these two kind of do it in different ways. Rex is able to draw the nanites out of people through simple touch, whereas Van Kleist appears to have to pierce someone's skin. That might not necessarily be true, but it certainly looks like that's what's happening. And, you know, technically targeted towards kids, so they're not going to show any kind of effects of that at all, either way. But yeah, I think that's interesting, and they could explore it in the future. There's a couple of other reveals in here that I really want to go over. And other than that, the rest of this episode is just action sequences that are cool.
After Six shows up, we've got another setup to a potential future plot element. Van Kleist tells Rex that he was there for the nanite event.
This jumps out at me as an actual big reveal that just kind of gets swept under the rug, which means there's more to this reveal that we're going to find out later. Now, this is probably the wildest theory regarding, again, from just the point of view of the first episode. The less wild part of it is that I think that it's possible that Rex and Van Kleist are related, especially since Providence already knows who Van Kleist is. That is the part that really indicates to me what my specific theory about that is, again, before watching any episode other than this one. And the specific theory I have regarding that is that Van Kleist is Rex's father. I think one notable thing about that is Van Kleist could just be sort of a two-word last name. Those exist sometimes. And we don't know Rex's last name at all. Then again, his name could be Van Kleist and Rex could be Rex Kleist. Although Rex Van Kleist kind of rolls off the tongue better. So basically what I'm saying is I think it's very possible that Rex is Van Kleist's son. At the very least, I believe they are related by blood in some fashion, which is why their powers are so similar to each other. There's one more reveal in this episode, though, that I want to go over.
As it turns out, Rex's new bestie Noah was an agent of Providence all along.
What seems weird about that is that they paint this as some sort of major deception. It's almost like Providence does have sort of an ill intention with Rex the whole time. Which would mean that if Noah is loyal to the bosses of Providence...
Oh my God! No! Kevin Owens!
Really hope I'm wrong on this one. Okay, so to sum things up, here's my basic thoughts on the first episode. First minute or two, not a great first impression. Wouldn't be surprised if some people ended up turning off at that point. But then, once you get past that opening sequence, things start escalating up as we continue watching, and it's really cool. They set up so many neat little things that I know that they can explore more, and the more that it looks like they will explore really does interest me and really makes me want to watch more. So I'm definitely going to watch the rest of this series, even though at this time I'm not planning on doing an episode by episode review of the series. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm already doing 2 full series, episode by episode. What the fuck do you want from me?